Yellowstone National Park is known for its beauty, but it's also a place of danger. Over the years, many visitors have lost their lives in ways that are both shocking and tragic. In this video, we'll look at 5 of the worst deaths in Yellowstone's history. Real stories of people who made one wrong move, underestimated the power of nature, or were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
A snowmobile rider died while searching for Forrest Fenn's treasure in Utah.
It was June 4th, 2017, near West Yellowstone, Montana, an isolated pocket of forest where the silence feels ancient and the air tastes wild. Mike Peterson, a 42-year-old father of 4 from Bismarck, North Dakota, stood at the edge of that vast unknown. He wasn't just out for a hike, he was chasing a legend. For years, Mike had been consumed by the mystery of the Forrest Fenn treasure, a chest said to be filled with gold, jewels, and priceless artifacts, hidden somewhere between Santa Fe and the Canadian border. Like hundreds of others, he believed he was close. Maybe this time, he thought, he'd finally found the right spot. He kissed his girlfriend, Bonnie Sanger, goodbye at the trailhead that morning, wearing his bright orange vest, waders, and carrying a gun, bear spray, and enough supplies for the day. They had a plan. Meet back at the car by 6 p.m. But when Bonnie returned, Mike was gone. At first, she waited. Maybe he was delayed. Maybe he'd found something. Maybe anything. Then, at 7:20 p.m., 4 gunshots rang out in the distance. Sharp, sudden, echoing through the thick woods. She froze. Was that Mike? Was he in trouble, signaling for help? She waited, straining her ears, watching the tree line. But darkness crept in. Still no sign of him. By 8 p.m., panic took over. She drove until she found cell service and called the authorities. Search teams were deployed by 10 p.m. Helicopters equipped with infrared, trained dogs, ground crews. Everyone was looking. And yet, nothing. The next day, a trail of clues appeared. Mike's bright orange vest and bear spray were found half a mile from the creek. Then deeper in, his backpack and gun. But no footprints, no blood, just abandoned gear in the middle of bear country. It didn't make sense. Mike was no amateur. He'd spent years in the wilderness. He knew the rules. He never strayed too far from safety. Bonnie told the search team about a strange encounter the night before. After the gunshots, she said she met a group of men who also claimed to have heard them. They were friendly, she said. Just bear hunters passing through. They supposedly helped search for Mike but didn't find anything. But that raised even more questions. Theories started swirling. Had Mike fallen victim to something more sinister? A run-in with strangers? An ambush? A wrong place, wrong time kind of moment? Or was it just a tragic miscalculation? 3 days later, the mystery took a grim turn. Mike's body was found in the creek, a quarter mile from where his gear had been discovered. Cold, fast-moving water swollen by spring snowmelt had taken him, authorities said. Gallatin County Sheriff's Captain Jason Jarrett concluded that Mike likely drowned trying to cross it, misjudging its power, as even seasoned hikers sometimes do. But his family wasn't convinced. Days before his trip, Mike had told them he was in Denver attending a wedding. He had purposely hidden the truth, as he often did when treasure hunting. He didn't want them to worry. But it also meant that no one knew where he was. And now, they may never really know what happened. His daughter Valerie remained especially skeptical. She questioned Bonnie's story, the mysterious men in the woods, the odd gaps in the timeline. Something didn't sit right. But with no evidence of foul play, the case was closed. Officially, an accident. It was a Sunday morning, August 17th, 2014, when the unthinkable happened at Yellowstone National Park. 8-year-old Zahara Aliari from Poway, California, had been hiking along the brink of the Lower Falls Trail, one of Yellowstone's most iconic spots. Zahara was a curious, bright-eyed little girl, adventurous, fearless, always eager to explore, but in a place like Yellowstone, even the smallest misstep can become fatal. As her family moved along the narrow trail, Zahara stepped just slightly off the marked path. Maybe she wanted a better look. Maybe she was caught in a moment of wonder. But that one step was all it took. The ground beneath her was loose, unstable. It gave way instantly. No one had time to react. In a flash, Zahara slipped, and then she was gone. Her small body tumbled down the steep canyon wall, over 500 feet straight down into a jagged, unforgiving gorge. Her family screamed. Other hikers watched helplessly. There was nothing anyone could do. The cliffs were too steep, the terrain too rugged. She had vanished in seconds. Emergency crews were called immediately, but even they knew what they were up against. A helicopter had to be brought in. Rescuers rappelled down into the canyon, fighting wind, gravity, and time, but it was too late. Zahara hadn't survived the fall. Back home in Poway, the news shattered an entire community. She was supposed to start 4th grade in just a few days. Her best friend, Kirsten, had even brought back a small bookmark from South Korea, a little surprise gift for Zahara, one she never got to give. Kirsten called her the sister she never had. They shared lunch, secrets, inside jokes, study sessions, and now, just like that, she was gone. The pain rippled through their school, their town. Counselors were brought in. A moment of silence was held. But how do you make sense of something so sudden, so senseless? And that week, the park didn't take just one life. Only days earlier, 22-year-old Darian Laddie from Georgia had been tubing with friends on the Yellowstone River. He wasn't wearing a life jacket. He lost control. The river pulled him under, fast, cold, merciless. His friends couldn't reach him. Search teams later found his body pinned under a rock, a quarter-mile downstream. Another young life lost, another family shattered. 2 tragedies in a single week. 2 families left with memories, questions, and unbearable silence. Yellowstone draws millions every year. People come for the beauty, the thrill, the escape. But the truth is, nature doesn't play favorites. It doesn't give warnings. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. Trails may be scenic, but they can also be deadly. Rivers are not lazy streams. They are powerful forces that don't forgive mistakes.
This is the first time this has happened, by the way, since 1986. A grizzly bear killed a man in the park Wednesday morning.
It was March 23rd, 2022 in Paradise Valley, Montana. 40-year-old Craig Cluatra laced up his boots, zipped up his jacket, and stepped into that silence, unaware it would be the last hike he would ever take. Craig wasn't a tourist. He had lived in Montana for over 2 decades, a father of 4. A man who didn't just enjoy the outdoors, he belonged to it. He had ice-climbed frozen waterfalls, hiked remote trails, and chased the thrill of adventure since childhood. On that morning, he and a friend had ventured into the 6 Mile Creek area, just north of Yellowstone. It was rugged, steep country, untamed and beautiful, the kind of place where the trees are thick and the mountains watch you from above. They agreed to split up for a while, probably searching for shed antlers, something Craig enjoyed doing in the spring thaw. They would meet back at the car later, but Craig never showed. At first, maybe it was just a delay. Maybe he found a new trail. Maybe he lost track of time. But when the sun began to fall behind the mountains and his friend was still alone, the fear set in. He called for help. Search teams came quickly. Foot crews, helicopters, dogs. The terrain was brutal. Cold air, dense forest, sheer ridges. 2 long days passed. Then came the news. Craig had been found. He was gone. The Park County Sheriff confirmed what many had feared. Craig had encountered a grizzly bear, and he hadn't survived. "It is with a very heavy heart that I am writing this update," Sheriff Brad Bickler said. "It appears he had an encounter with a grizzly and unfortunately did not survive. Please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers." Craig's wife, Jamie, was shattered. Just 2 years earlier, they had lost nearly everything in a house fire. He had been rebuilding, brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck, trying to give his family a stable home again. Now, another tragedy, one they never saw coming. Jamie posted a message online, raw with pain. "I loved him with every fiber of me. He was a vital part of our family, and it is going to be a struggle for the rest of our lives. To say we are broken is an understatement, and how could they not be?" The Livingston community rallied. Friends, neighbors, even strangers donated to a GoFundMe campaign that raised more than $100,000. People remembered Craig not just as an adventurer, but as a protector, a man who worked at the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center, who educated others about wildlife and safety. He wasn't reckless. He understood the dangers. He respected them. And still, it wasn't enough. This wasn't a bear hunting through a campsite. It wasn't provoked. It was just a tragic crossing of paths. One moment, one encounter, and everything changed. Wildlife officials collected hair samples to confirm the attack. There was no plan to track or kill the bear. It hadn't hunted Craig. It had simply done what wild animals do. But that doesn't make it any easier to accept. Jamie spoke of his love for mountains. The high peaks of Montana and Idaho, the summits of Utah. He had so many plans. Wind River Range was next. He lived with a spark that most people only dream of touching. He knew the wild, and the wild knew him. But on that day, even all his experience wasn't enough to bring him home. Friends like Ann Tanner still can't believe it. "He was finally just getting their house together," she said through tears. "I can't believe he would lose his life in the wilderness. He was so strong, so smart." In the days that followed, the pain didn't ease, but the love poured in. By the end of March, over $120,000 had been raised for Jaime and the children. It wouldn't bring him back, but it showed just how many lives Craig had touched. His story is not one of recklessness or carelessness. It's a story about love, about rebuilding after loss, about trusting the land you call home, and about the cruel unpredictability of nature, no matter how prepared you are. It was June 7, 2016 in Yellowstone National Park. 23-year-old Colin Nathaniel Scott was ready for adventure. He had come with his sister, Sable, both excited to explore the wonders they had read about, seen in pictures, and now stood in awe of. Yellowstone, with its alien landscapes and surreal beauty, felt like another planet. But what they didn't know, what no one ever truly expects, is that they were walking into a nightmare. They entered Norris Geyser Basin, one of the most dangerous and unpredictable places in the park. Boiling pools, thin crusts, acidic water that can eat through bone, but like many before them, they were lured by curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, by the thrill of breaking a rule. They stepped off the boardwalk, hot potting. That was the goal, an illegal and reckless practice of soaking in the thermal springs, not realizing just how deceptive these pools really are. They don't bubble like lava. They don't scream danger. They shimmer. They glow. They look inviting. But beneath the surface, death waits in silence. While searching for the perfect spring, Colin walked just a bit too far. The ground beneath him crumbled, and in an instant, he was gone. He had fallen into a scalding, acidic, hot spring. Sable screamed. She could only watch, helpless and horrified, as her brother vanished into the steam. There was no time, no second chance. She ran to find help, desperate, frantic. But Yellowstone doesn't wait for rescue. By the time rangers reached the scene, it was already over. The water was over 199 ADEGF, laced with chemicals and sulfuric acid, so corrosive that it had dissolved nearly everything. His body could not be recovered. Rangers found only a few belongings, a wallet, a pair of flip-flops, the rest gone. Melted into the earth as if he had never been there. Park spokesperson Carissa Reed confirmed what everyone feared. The conditions were so extreme, so unforgiving, that recovery was impossible. Colin had loved nature. He wasn't some careless thrill seeker. He had just graduated from Pacific University with honors and was preparing to begin a doctorate program in psychology. He had volunteered at the Jackson Bottom Wetlands Preserve, teaching others about wildlife and conservation. He was bright, compassionate, full of potential. And yet in one single misstep, Yellowstone swallowed him whole. He became the park's 22nd fatality tied to hot springs since it opened in 1872, and still, people don't listen. The danger signs are everywhere. Bright, bold, but many visitors step off the path anyway, thinking they know better. They don't see the risk. They see adventure, Instagram moments, a chance to soak in nature's hot tub, but these are not safe waters. They are boiling, acidic, and completely unforgiving. The earth around them is fragile. What looks like solid ground may be paper thin. Colin's death wasn't just tragic, it was horrifying. It happened so fast, so violently, and yet so silently. His family was devastated. His friends struggled to make sense of it. A young man with a future so bright, gone in a blink because of a single decision, because of a moment's curiosity, because the rules felt more like suggestions. It was July 22nd, 2023, a morning just outside Yellowstone National Park on the quiet, forested stretch known as the Buttermilk Trail in Montana. She was 47, a former teacher from Darby, Kansas, who had traded in the classroom for the open road. In 2015, Amy had left her job to chase something wilder: freedom, solitude, beauty. For years, she hiked and ran through the country's most breathtaking landscapes. She even wrote a book about it, Walking Out. One teacher's reflections on walking out of the classroom to walk America. Amy wasn't a novice. She knew the wilderness. She respected it. She loved it. But on that July morning, something went terribly wrong. She was alone, moving through the trail like she had hundreds of times before. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that somewhere nearby, a mother grizzly bear and her cubs were also moving silently through the brush. She didn't see them. She didn't hear them. But the bear saw her. It was a split-second mistake, a surprise, and then it was over. Around 8 a.m., another hiker stumbled upon a devastating scene. Amy's body lifeless on the trail. Her injuries were brutal. It was clear something violent had happened, and fast. Authorities were called, and soon wildlife officials confirmed what many feared. Amy had been mauled to death by a grizzly bear. Large paw prints nearby told the story that Amy could not. But the bear itself was gone, vanished back into the trees. It wasn't hunting. It wasn't stalking. This was a defensive attack, a mother protecting her cubs from a perceived threat. That's how grizzlies operate. They don't ask questions. They don't hesitate, and when they feel their young are in danger, they strike with terrifying force. Amy didn't have bear spray, and in bear country, that can be the difference between life and death. News of her death rippled through the community. Online, her mother, Janet Adamson, shared a message that no parent ever wants to write. This is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to post. Yesterday morning, we lost our beautiful, smart, and talented daughter, Amy. In interviews, she spoke of Amy's love for nature. Running through Yellowstone, she said, it was like heaven to her. Officials closed off the Buttermilk Trail. They launched a full-scale investigation, complete with helicopter flyovers and traps. But the bear was never found. In truth, they never really wanted to find her. A defensive bear isn't a rogue killer. It's a mother following instinct. Still, the danger remained, and the Forest Service warned the public. Be careful, be alert, be prepared. But the warning came too late for Amy. Her death reignited the ongoing debate about human-bear encounters, especially in Montana, where the grizzly population has been steadily growing. Conservation efforts have worked. The bears are coming back, but so are the risks. More people are hitting the trails than ever before, and sometimes that love for the wild comes with a price. Grizzlies are nothing like black bears. They're bigger, stronger, more territorial, and if you surprise a mother grizzly, there is no second chance. Experts say most of these encounters can be avoided. Carry bear spray, hike in groups, make noise as you go. Simple things, life-saving things. But Amy had none of that with her. She was alone, and the forest was quiet. That silence cost her everything. It was not a predatory attack. Wildlife officials later confirmed the bear never tried to eat her or drag her body away. That's important, because it tells us something. Amy wasn't prey. She was a perceived threat. And the bear did what bears have done for centuries when they feel cornered. It defended its young. This wasn't the first deadly encounter in the area. Just 2 years earlier, another person lost their life in a grizzly attack near West Yellowstone. The truth is hard to swallow. As the wild spaces shrink and people venture deeper into them, these tragedies are becoming more common. Nature isn't a theme park. It doesn't follow rules. It doesn't care if you're experienced, respectful, or just out for a jog. It acts without warning. In the days that followed, Amy's loved ones tried to make sense of the loss. Her mother found small comfort in knowing her daughter had died doing what she loved, running through the wild, chasing the feeling of being truly alive. She was a free spirit, Janet wrote. She died in a place she loved.